All right, guys, this is section 3.1. This is rectangular coordinate systems. Really, it's just a fancy math way of saying graphing on the coordinate plane, which we've done quite a bit before. So first, I want to look at some vocab. When we talk about, like I said, the rectangular system, Cartesian, coordinate plane, coordinate system, that's all the same thing. So that's that graph here on the right side. Remember, the axes are just the two perpendicular lines. Okay, the origin is right there in the middle where those two things meet. So there's the origin. We've got the x-axis, which is our horizontal line, and then the y-axis is right there. Okay, it's split up into 4 different quadrants. Now, these quadrants are listed 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of times you will also see them listed as Roman numerals also. And then the easiest way to remember the order that they're supposed to go in, it makes a letter C. So you start, literally you're just going to make that letter C. Follow how your pen traced it, and then that's how you number them. Okay, ordered pair. This part's really important. Okay, it says ordered. That means it does matter. The X always comes first. It should be pretty easy to remember because that is alphabetical order also. All right, down here we've got the distance formula. So the distance is going to be between any 2 points. And again, we've got an x value and a y value, and then another x value and a y value. Okay, so there's this formula. It says x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. One thing I want you guys to pay really good attention to is right here. Okay, the order of subtraction doesn't really matter. So you're going to hear me start to say just do x minus x, because it doesn't matter which order you actually multiply the x's in. So for example, if I had 4 comma, let's just say 5, and then it looks like 10 comma, let's say 15, right? So it doesn't matter which order I go in. I can go 4 minus 5, or sorry, 4 minus 10, so kind of going that way, or I can go 10 minus 4. Either way, I'm going to get the same answer. I would get -6 or +6. Either one, we square it. So let's work through an example here. So again, the distance formula. I'm going to focus on my x's. Here's an x, here's an x. So I'm just going to go in the order that I read it. -3 minus 5 squared plus, here's a y, here's a y, 6 minus 1 squared. When I work through here, -3 minus 5, that's -8, plus, let's see, 6 minus 1 is 5 squared. Okay, now, I'm okay actually if you use, this one's not too bad, but I'm okay if you use your calculators for some of these. So here on the screen, here's what I would rather you do. Again, the negative doesn't really matter. So like we've talked about before, I would prefer if you just grab your calculator and do 8 squared plus 5 squared, right? The signs don't matter because -8 times -8 is going to be the same. And so then that tells me that's 89. So then the distance between those is the square root of 89. Make sure you read your directions. Here it asks to round to the nearest tenth. A lot of times we will break it down into simplest radical form. So I'm going to take the square root of 89. I do like to split that up. I feel like sometimes if you try to type it all in at one time, sometimes your parentheses and things get messed up a little bit. So 9.4. So it's going to be about 9.4. Okay, there's the first thing. Midpoint is also something we're going to see here. Now, again, we're adding, so order is not quite as important. So you're just going to take x plus x divided by 2, y plus y divided by 2, and you're going to get an ordered pair for your midpoint. The midpoint is just the point that's right in the middle of two endpoints. So here's our example 2. Find a midpoint between these two. Again, I know my answer is going to be an ordered pair. So I'm going to take x, so here's an x, here's an x, x plus y divided by 2, and then y plus y and divide it by 2. -4 plus 2, sorry, -2 plus 4 is 2. 3 plus -2 is 1. I probably should go ahead and reduce the 2 over 2. Let's leave it as 1. The 1/2, let's just leave it as 1/2. One thing I would like you guys to make a note of here. Okay, distance is a number, which kind of makes sense. If we're talking about how far it is from your house to school, you're going to tell me a certain number. Midpoint, and it says it in the word, midpoint is an ordered pair, right? It's more of a location. If I were to ask you what the midpoint is between your house and school, you would tell me some sort of location. You'd give me some sort of landmark, whether it's the Shell gas station or Target or something like that. All right, the last question. This time you got to read it really carefully. We are trying to find point B. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that we can do this. The first one is kind of algebraically. So this is an x, this is a y, this is an x, this is a y, but again, this is for the midpoint. So you can sort of plug in what you know. So I know that -3 plus, now I don't know the other x, divided by 2, that equals 5. Okay, that's for the x's. Or for the y's, let's see, 8 plus whatever value for the other point, divided by 2 equals -10. Okay, I don't mind that way, and if you're really strong at algebra and you can set those up and they make sense, then great, go for it. But I actually had a former student sort of explain this to me in a different way, and I really kind of liked it. So here on the ends are A and B, and then right here in the middle is that midpoint. Now, on the top of the line, I'm going to put the x values. On the bottom of the line, I'm going to put the y values. So my x value at point A is -3, and my y value is 8. My x value at the midpoint is 5, and the y value is -10. Now, what we sort of talked through is that the midpoint is right in the middle. So I'm going to think about taking big old jumps here. I'm going to leap from -3 to 5. Okay, and what that tells me is I'm going to take a big leap. So think about how far it is from -3 to 5. I'm going to add 8 steps. Well, to go this way, you've got to do the same thing. You've also got to take 8 steps. Just be careful. It's not like we're going to go left one time and right one time, but to go from one endpoint to the midpoint, and then the midpoint to the other endpoint, you're going to be going in the same direction. So 5 plus 8, that's going to give me 13. Now I'll do the same thing with the y's. So to go from 8 to -10, all right, that one I'm actually subtracting. I'm subtracting 18, which means I've got to subtract 18 again. And then, let's see, -10 minus 18 is -28. And so my other endpoint is going to be 13, -28. Okay, you can do a real quick check in your head. 13 plus -3 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So, yep, I know that one's good. -28 plus 8 is -20. Chop it in half, that's -10. So we know it works. Again, I don't necessarily care which way you use to find the midpoint. I'm sorry, to find the other endpoint, but that's kind of a good method to go to. And again, this is really only used when you have one endpoint, a midpoint, and you're trying to find the other endpoint. If you are given both endpoints, then I would definitely just use the midpoint formula like we talked about earlier. So that's the end of section 3.1, rectangular coordinate systems.